Hi, I'm Alice Obrecht, Senior Research Fellow with ALNAP, and I've had the great pleasure of joining World Vision for this 3-day workshop, which is focused on learning and reflection on the Fragile Context Program Approach, or otherwise known as FCPA, because I'm learning all of the acronyms now. And approaches like FCPA are super important because, as we all know, 80% of humanitarian action now takes place in protracted crises, which are often in fragile contexts. And we also know that getting progress in fragile contexts is going to be important if we want to see any achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. So it's important for both humanitarian and development actors, but we're not very good at addressing the problems in fragile contexts, primarily because these contexts are complex and the problems are complex and the issues facing communities are not simple or straightforward, and they end up changing quite dramatically from month to month. So we need different systems and approaches to dealing with this. And so I've had the pleasure, being at ALNAP, of working with and talking to a range of our members on how they're dealing with this issue. What strikes me as being particularly unique and different about World Vision's FCPA approach are two big things that stand out. First is that it's a systematic and intentional approach to working in a more flexible and adaptive way. So we're learning as a sector that we need to move beyond the application of kind of linear log frames and move to a more flexible, adaptive approach where we can anticipate and plan for change, but where we can also create the space within our programs to have rapid, iterative learning that leads to changes on the ground in a timely manner. That's a lot easier said than done, and some organizations in their approach to doing this haven't really taken an intentional approach, and instead what we see is that it's individual kind of rogue country teams or rogue individuals who go about implementing a more flexible approach and end up asking for forgiveness rather than asking for permission. What's great about World Vision's approach is taking this intentional and support-driven approach, where it's saying what kind of support do we need to give our country teams if we want to see them operating in this flexible, iterative way? What does it really mean to be a learning organization and to learn within context with communities so that we can follow them along this journey? And I think that's really been inspirational to me and really interesting. I think the second part of World Vision's approach that is unique is the emphasis on values. So World Vision is a values-driven, faith-based organization. And I think a lot of times when we think about adaptation, sometimes we think, well, adapting means organizations have to change themselves to fit the context. But actually adaptation is really about finding the best expression of your values and your identity to a particular context and making sure that you can change so that you can actually live out those values in a fuller and deeper way in that context as it shifts over time. And I think that's a real strength that World Vision is bringing to this dialogue and to this area of practice. In terms of looking ahead, I just think that there's such a wealth of learning that's been shared over the past 3 days. My head is buzzing, and I can't wait to go back to London and share this with the team and look to putting this into our case study that touches on the FCPA. I think looking ahead, the two big messages I would say are, one is to be patient, that these kinds of changes are not going to happen overnight, that we need to make sure that approaches like FCPA, which do require quite a radical rethinking of the way we've become used to working in many organizations, we need to give time for that approach to take root and to really grow, and for teams at the field level to feel comfortable and empowered to take these changes, take these decisions to make changes continuously throughout a program. And the second message I would say for moving forward is to push it even further, to allow for more experimentation, more locally driven solutions to come out of these projects and these programs, because that's where we're going to see real change happening for most vulnerable communities.